visible. Yeah,
Okay,
I can.
perfect. The record is starting right now.
Yeah,
Let me introduce.
you can.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Let me
Mr. Dana.
introduce myself. Quick introduction. So this is myself, Daniel. Like Anu say, I'm a worker with Oracle a long time ago, more than 29 full cycles between the cloud and the EBS.
Sorry, Daniel.
24.
Sorry to interrupt you. Your volume is low from your end.
Could you say again?
Yeah, Mr.
Your
Daniel, the
volume is low.
participant is requesting from your end, the volume is bit low.
Ah, it's low.
Yeah,
Let, let me check. The microphone is on and it's better now?
yeah, it's better now.
Okay, let me use it here. So thanks for this invitation related for this session. This is my self-introduction by myself. I've been working in Oracle a long time ago, like sometimes like a consultant, sometimes like a project management. I have a large expertise about this cloud in EBS, and this last 8 or 9 years working with cloud environments in this time. And today share my knowledge about this budgetary control. Okay, let's check what is the scope during today and tomorrow. And we have another session in the next week, right?
Yeah, Mr. Daniel.
Okay, perfect. So we have 4 days related for this scope. That means the budgetary control. Today, the scope is foundation and setups. That means how can starting or enable this feature and doing the setups related to budgetary control. Tomorrow, we talking about the control budget and rules, a little definition on a little setup before we starting the exercise or the practical, doing a scenario end-to-end. That means creating a transaction and checking the reflection of this transaction into the budgetary perspective. After that, in the next week, next Saturday, we are talking about the budgetary consumption. That means tracking the budgetary into the application. And in the end, in the next Sunday, we are closing this session talking about the monitoring and closing process, the closing period related to a budgetary control. Okay? The sound is better right now, right? Can
Yeah,
you
it's
hear?
up. Yeah,
Okay,
it's better.
okay, okay. So what is scope today? And I share here the today and tomorrow, but I know there are a lot of people here, 36 persons here on the session, and please be patient because some persons know about the Oracle application or Oracle Cloud, some key concepts, and other persons here, I believe, is starting right now. So I will share the concept about this budgetary control, and after that we starting navigating on the application, doing the things related to these foundation and setups today. So we checking the scope here, verifying the budgetary control, calendar, rules, setup related to calendar, the initial setup related to budgetary control, and also and checking the hierarchy related for this budgetary control versus the accounting or any other accounting segment here. Checking the consumption, the three consumption layers or layers related to a budgetary. I will give you an example, explanation about these topics here with you. There is some the same agenda. Anu, remember me early? We are discussing maybe the first hour and talking about this. A little break, 10 minutes, right, Anu? During 1 hour and another. That means 1 hour, explain, a little break, a short break, and after that, complete the session today. In the same will happen tomorrow. Right, Anu? In the end of the session. During the session, you can do questions. I prefer answer the questions related today, not tomorrow or next week. This makes sense to me. But we can do the questions here. Tomorrow, recap the sessions of today. A little recap, 5 minutes. And after that, complete the setup. The little extension setup. The budgetary rules, hierarchies, and supplementary rules here. And after that, we can apply these concepts created today, concepts created tomorrow, into practical scenarios here. Okay? Everything is fine? Let me start in. Let me closing some points here. Just to exemplify. Can you see my screen right now? Flow?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. So in this flow is something like an infographic, and share these concepts then I mentioned to you related to day 1, 2, 3, and 4. What's happening for each day here and what is the scope? I think is a flow is much better to see, understand what's happening here than speaking or doing something. So today we're talking about the day 1 again. I will change it to application right now to do some session, to do the activities with you guys. And before we move into application right now, I need to share 2 concepts related to day 1, okay? And after that, we start in using Oracle application here and doing the activities, just to stay on the same page, right? Let me share with you another flow here. All this material and activities guide and things like that, I will share to Anu, and Anu will share to the persons who will register on these sessions for the 4 days. Okay. Quick explanation about the budgetary, right? I prefer using infograph. So what is the concept related to budgetary control? I explain and share this information with Siddhartha. Siddhartha is here. Thank you for the invitation to stay here, Siddhartha. This is one example related to what is the budgetary control? What is the purpose? Who will use the budgetary control? Think about a battery, something like a battery of your cell phone or your tablet or your notebook or laptop. So the battery here is the concept of budgetary control. So let me, I think it's better, right? Perfect. So that means companies starting this process, sometimes in the old system, sometimes starting using Oracle, the future inside of Oracle, into EBS. EBS already have this feature, cloud also, using this feature to control the expenses into the company. That means the company don't want looking into the review mirror. So the company using a tool to control the expenses during a time. Maybe sometimes is a monthly control, maybe an annual control. So depends of the business requirement. And when you enable this budgetary control, you enable the future about that. And after that, let me scroll down here. We starting tracking the consume, like the consume of your battery. If you open your application or your cell phone, you can check WhatsApp is using more battery, something like WhatsApp or Instagram or TikTok or something like that. You can monitor who is consuming your energy related to battery. The budgetary control is the same concept. You can check in which department, which accounting or another segment is consuming your battery, in this case, your money into the company, and create some rules about that. The rules is here. What kind of rule could be applied? So absolutely, we can explain with more details along these 4 days. Okay, don't worry about that. This is a quick concept to share here. We have some scenarios in persons related to inside of this budgetary control, like a commitment, obligation, expenditure. I will explain a little deep in the next infographic. But you have also some types of control, like here. Then we are talking about the absolutely or advisor or track. Absolutely, you can, if you have money enough to expand, okay. Different of that, you cannot do that. I have one example to share with you. So the concept, the general concept related to budgetary control is that control the expend money into the company by, depends of the business requirement, cost center or department plus accounting plus another segments. Okay. The last infograph, and we starting using the application here. Example to stay on the same page. Remember, then I told to you there are some control type of controls then you have into the budgetary control. So this is one example. If you go to the McDonald's or another lunch house, then try buy your lunch, right? If you using the green option here, so you have $10 and we'll pay for a lunch, a hamburger with the combo, right? The hamburger, the potatoes, and other things like that. You have $10 and the cost of this hamburger or this combo is 8. Using the control, this concept related to budgetary control, you have funds to buy this lunch for you. So green, okay, that's it. You can enable the absolute control, doing the same thing. That means buying the lunch. But in this case, you have $5 and the lunch cost $8. So you cannot buy this lunch. So this concept is using absolute. If you have money, you can take it. If you don't have money, in this case, maybe ice cream or another thing with cost until $5. Then the money then you have in your pocket. Advisor is the orange option here. So you have $5, but cost the $8. The person here is saying to you, so you don't have the total amount to buy that, but you can use it, but you need to give me 3. So advice is a warning, then you will expanding more than you have, but it's not blocking the transaction. Absolutely block your transaction and you cannot move forward. Advisor, you can move, but in this case, or you change your order to an ice cream, or you have a difference, then you must be adjustment in a future. Okay? So it's not blocking the transaction, it's a warning. Track control is just a take a note about all transactions then you have. Doesn't matter the total amount. It's register what's happening into the company. In this case, into the transaction, right? And the last option, then we'll talk about tomorrow, is related to a budgetary override. It's something like you try buy the lunch, but you don't have the total amount, so you call to someone, hey, could you give me $10 and I will deliver it to you in the next day or something like that. So you request a additional approval, in this case, additional amount to follow with your transaction. So this is a concept. We are talking about this in a few days, maybe tomorrow, because this setup is related tomorrow. Related to budgetary override, this is inside a control budget setup. It's clear we are talking about more about this, but I think to stay on the same page, the budgetary control scenario and the budgetary control options is enough to stay on the same page, sharing with you these 2 infographics. It's clear? We can move on. Any questions? The silence means
Yeah, I
you
have
understand.
one question,
Okay.
Daniel. So I understand. I mean, before we actually dive into this, screens that you're showing, is there any recommendations? Let me say that, we walk to a client, based on, their business processes. Is there a way that we can kind of recommend that, it would be better for you guys to, start implementing budgetary control? I understand, if it comes from the client, that is one thing, obviously we got to enable the budgetary control. But, proactively, are there any statutory regulations or, any trigger points that you can think of where we can say that, hey, it would be good for you to kind of, enable the budgetary control?
Perfect. Good question. So if the company is already working on this kind of budgetary control, doesn't matter if you're in Oracle, maybe in People or maybe SAP, doesn't matter the system. If the company already have this concept related to budgetary control, the company can use it, for example, absolutely. If the company already have this skill, all right? If you're doing a new implementation, then company don't know about this concept, is a new concept to the company, the best approach is using the advisory control. Why? If the company is not usual this concept and starting using absolutely control, 100% of chance all transactions starting and after that blocking because someone is not uploading the correct amount related to budgetary. 100% of the scenarios then I already implement the company. We share this information to the company. The financial department say, oh, good idea. We start in absolutely control, but the company does not have this skill or this mentality. And because of that, we block the transactions and maybe after 1 month, the guy says, so could you disable this absolutely control or the budgetary control? We need to review the concept here. Okay, Anat. So the best approach is, if the companies already know this concept in working on that, you can use absolutely. Otherwise, advisor. Okay,
Yeah, understood.
perfect. So let me share my screen with you again, but in this time, can you
Daniel,
see it? Yeah, please.
Client is not using budgetary control. In
Okay.
which business scenario we can advise as a proactive? Yes, you have to enable budgetary control so that you can get this kind of benefits.
Yeah.
Manufacturing industry or which industry it is very apt budgetary control?
You can enable. If you're not starting using, you can enable. For example, some companies is starting the using related to expenses report, right? So expenses, then you have into the company starting this something like an example, and after that move on to supply chain or manufacturing or another things. So you can start in something like a small, using some like a POC, right? Proof of concept related range of accounting or cost center. And after that, you can apply into your manufacturing accounts or transactions if you wish, using the advertiser to not block your transaction or your line of production, right?
Okay.
Okay, we can move on. Any other person?
Yeah.
I will move on. So can you see my Oracle screen? So first step here, we need to enable this feature to start in working on that, right? So where is the place then I can enable the budgetary control? It's here. So hamburger, move on to my enterprise, and after that offering. After that, select the financials. And after that, obtaining features. Let me open another tab here to share with you what's happening here. In this environment, this option is already enabled, but think about that. If it's not enabled, you cannot see this line here, this blue line related to budgetary control and encumbrance. If you're not starting doing this first step here, let me share to you this line here. We need to enable this. Anu, could you help me to put on mute the persons here?
Yeah, Mr. Daniel, I will do.
Okay, thank you. So if you're not starting to do this first setup here, that means enable the budgetary and encumbrance accounting here. The system is not giving to you the option to start in the setup here on setup financials and this line budgetary control and encumbrance accounting. Okay. First step is enable this. Done. And okay. Very simple. Okay, let's move on to the Next step. We are talking about right now about the rules, right? Or roles. What kind of roles I needed using to do the setups and to use it this feature, right? So I prepare here one user, call it not using the user, but I would like to share with you what kind of rules then you need associate for your user into the cloud application, right? First of all, we needed a application implementation consultant to do the setups, right? Talking about the budgetary, we have three kinds of rules or roles related to this feature. One is called analyst, and the purpose of that is analyze the amounting, the transactions, and things like that. This is the purpose of this rule. Budget manager. Remember then I share with you one example here, the override, then you call for your dad or call for your friend to give your share with you some money to pay a bill, and after that you reimburse or return this total amount for your friend. Budget manager is the responsible to share or give more amount for the budgetary control. Is the person responsible to do that, to receive some approvals or notifications. This is the guy. And for this specific rule here, or role, budgetary manager, the person must be an employee into the application. All right. Analyst, you don't need it because you don't receive notifications or need a approval or things like that. But a budget manager, you need the person must be associated for an employee into the Oracle. A budget prepare is the guy responsible to do the uploading related to data amount related to a budgetary control. Okay. Plus information. Budgetary is a parallel control related to accounting. If you are a consultant responsible to do that, that means to do the setup before you complete your task and share to the user is starting the test. Of course, you need to do some smoke tests or a unit test to check if everything is fine. To do that, my recommendation is give to you also the accounting rows to compare the accounting transactions and total amount versus the budget total amount or transactions or things like that. You can compare both, right? Because of that, general accountant manager is here to doing this compare or your smoking tester or unit test. After that, share with your end user. Of course, your end user don't need have all these rows. No, you need to define something like a mapping, right? I think all of you already work with something like that. A mapping, a spreadsheet mapping related to users versus roles. Daniel is a accountant user and needed roles associated for accounting, budgetary, or things like that. Sankar is working on account payables and must be associated roles related to payables, payments, and things like that. It's clear? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, yes, Daniel.
Yes, Daniel, is clear.
Oh, okay, perfect. In the last one, if you are using your user to do tests and add more roles and things like that, of course, you need the IT security manager to give you permission to add more rules, create a custom rules and things like that. Perfect. We cannot associate right now the data access related to budgetary because we is not starting do this task. There isn't any budgetary name, something like a general ledger, a ledger accounting or a ledger name, then we can associate right now. For these rules, of course, the pre-requirement already have the setup related to general, that means the accounting, in the account payables and procurement. We need accounting, the ledger, the financials, scope completed, and procurement scope completed to starting the budgetary. You can starting the setup, but the tracking about the consumption is based on these modules then I share with you. Okay. Any doubts here? We can move on.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So if you remember any questions, please let me know. Let me share to you. I don't know why I'm not open this option here. This one. We are talking about right now about the budgetary calendar. Can you see my screen with GL calendar versus budgetary control calendar? We have a concept here. When you define the ledger, remember the 4C, right? Current, calendar, core, in subledger accounting. It does have C, but the guys using the C. We have 4 concepts here. So we're talking about the calendar. In general ledger using a monthly calendar, right? The budgetary control can use it or not the same calendar. Depends of the business requirement. I will share to you one example. When company then Oracle implement this budgetary control using the budgetary control monthly to check month by month what's happening here. There are another calendar, something like quarterly, to check the same, but using a new perspective. And the third related to a year. So these guys into this project, then I mentioned to you, have 3 different calendars: monthly, quarterly, and annual calendar to control and monitoring the budgetary consumption. You need to check with your business requirement what kind of analysis or control or calendar the business would like to use in this future here. You can start using the budgetary monthly, and after that you can increase maybe, I don't know, quarter or annual. Okay. Using the same concept, then we're talking about you could have a little more information here, but a plus information. You can use monthly calendar and budgetary control, like I say to Anand, you can use an advisor, and for quarterly and annual, you can use them, for example, tracking. You can do that. Depends of the business requirement, like I mentioned to you. Where is this information here? Let me move on and share to you. So talking about the general ledger, the calendar, you know, is here, right? We can check. In this case,
Yeah,
we
Mr.
have,
Daniel, sorry to interrupt. I have one query. We have a GL calendar. Why can't we use that calendar? Why we have to use budgetary calendar?
okay, for in this example here, we have the GL calendar, all right?
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
called, for example, Supremo Power.
Okay.
If you check this information here, let's look in the calendar here. Give me a minute. So this is the calendar related for the ledger, right?
Yep.
It's called here Supreme, and the calendar is monthly, right? January, February. Okay, perfect. When you're talking about the budgetary control, we are talking about this tomorrow, but just to share this information with you right now. When you create your control, the system asks to you, what is the budgetary calendar? Then I apply on this control. Take a look. The system shared to me two types of calendar here. It's the same type, then share here with me. Sales calendar and Supremo calendar. That means in this case, if you are not doing anything and using the same calendar related to ledger, my budgetary control will be monthly. Otherwise, I need to come here, create a new calendar, and the system asks to me, take a look. If this calendar have the purpose or the only purpose related to budgetary control. And here I can define quarterly, annual, or things like that.
Yeah, it's clear
Okay.
right now. Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Daniel, Shankar here, out of these three calendars, what will be the advantage of having that the third option of the yearly financial year annual calendar?
So if you have different types of calendar, you need to create a different controls budget because, you know, I have only one field to put this information here. So if you are talking about to control the budgetary by monthly and quarterly, I need to create two setups. One monthly and another quarterly. Okay?
If it's yearly, annual financial year,
The same. The same.
Okay. What is the advantage of it having as yearly option 3 comparing to the quarterly and monthly?
Could you say again?
Yeah, what is the pros and cons for having that option 3 of financial year, the one period for all the 12 months?
It depends of the business requirement to view or checking the consumption for a different perspective. One monthly, another quarterly, and another year. So it's a business requirement.
So which one you suggest as a best practice?
Monthly, 100% of sure, and maybe annual. So
Okay.
monthly and annual. Like I said to Anat, depends of the mindset of your customer. If your customer already worked of this kind of concept, you can apply the three concepts, monthly, quarterly, and annual. Otherwise, you can generate both monthly and annual.
Yeah, thanks.
Let me go back here. So we're talking about enable the future, the roles related for this future, the calendar. I will using the same calendar for this test purpose. And after that, we can scroll down here on setup and financials and check the budgetary control and encumbrance accounting. We're starting this setup related for this future using this option here in the functional area. In the application will share with us some tasks by the right side. Then we can complete it one by one to starting this this feature or using this feature. Okay. Let me check one thing first. We are talking about the budgetary calendar. Okay. Before starting here, talking about the budgetary control, let me introduce to you a different concept. I think is a best practice. This information then I will share with you right now. When you create a little recap, when you create your ledger account, let me share to you. When you create your ledger account, you can define, here we are. This is a ledger account related to this core, the chart of account, and this chart of account have some accounting segments. In this case, company, line of business, account, cost center, product, and intercompany. You can use in wrapped implementation to do that. I think we already have sessions related to general ledger, right? Some weeks ago, talking about these features here. What is the best approach to share with you related to budgetary versus this information here? Every time then you uploading or creating a chart of account, the application in parallel already create a hierarchy related for your segments. In this case here, take a look. We have 6 segments here. And if you go to, let me move here. If you take a look, the same segments using this task called this one. Accounting hierarchy, when you're uploading using the wrapped implementation or FBDI or another thing, the application create to us a hierarchy related to, in this case, account, company, call center, intercompany, line, the same segments then we have here related to chart of account, right? But sometimes the business requirement needs a different hierarchy related to, for example, account, cost center, or another accounting segment. And if it is required for your scenario, I mean, to your business requirement, we need to do a additional setup here related to a hierarchy. That means budgetary control can consume the same information related for your accounting segments, but using a different hierarchy. This is possible. Okay? And I will show to you how can do that using the application. Okay? Let's move on. It's not clear right now, but tomorrow we can use this concept here. I will share to you this concept tomorrow. I cannot share the spoiler about that, but let me start and share some information to do this. First of all, you remember the concept related to any accounting segments related to parent and values into the chart of account, right? Let me show to you. I will open here. This is the accounting segment. Could be applying to the cost center, department, whatever. We have some accounts here. Then we have, take a look. This account is a summary account. That means is the father of the next one. In this case, assets is the parent of the cash and short-term invest. This is a parent of this bank account. So we have one hierarchy between parent account and accounting, right? To use this same concept related to budgetary control, we need to create here a parent account. If you take a look here, I create two concepts here. The number 2 is not to use it. It's only the first one and the third one. I created two concepts here. This is a parent account, not in accounting. That means when you create a transaction, I'm not using this information, but using the child of this information. First of all, we need to create parents to control your budgetary. In this case, we are talking about control budgetary control using a parent account versus accounting. I will show to you in a few minutes. But the first step is create the parent. In this example, I create two concepts. Budget control, that means all accounts below of this blue line here, I will control, or I am using this information to my budgetary control. Budgetary no control, that means all accounting associated for this parent account, I'm not in control the consumption of the budgetary control. It's a little different. Some projects are using the same hierarchy related to accounting. You can do that, but if this requirement is a little different than the usual, then I mentioned to you, you need to create a different hierarchy. For example, I'm working on a project, then the accounting department say to me, Daniel, the accounting hierarchy then we are using into budgetary control is not the same as an accounting instructor. Okay, is a little different, and we have a different segregations related for this budgetary. To do that, to cover this requirement, we need to create a new hierarchy related to budgetary control. Okay. First step, create your parents. And after that, move on to hierarchies to complete the setups. I will show to you step by step. Any doubt? The little confusion, but I promise to you, I will show to you the example. It will be very clear.
And the budget allocation is actually happening at the parent level. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's controlled by a parent, but when you uploaded the information related to total amount to expend, you can do by accounting. The setup is applied by parent, but your uploaded information you can use in the accounting information. It's more easy to do the maintenance related to a budgetary. I will show to you. So, first step, talking about this hierarchy. If your business requirement needed this kind of scenario, otherwise you don't need to do that. First of all, let me close this information here. We need to create a new hierarchy label. I will show to you. Take a look. By default, the application share with us this kind of label, parent 9 until parent 1, right? When using the rapid implementation and prepare the chart of account informations, you already have this information into your spreadsheet. Is default. What's happening here? I create a new one, call it, in this case, let me open to you, a budgetary control level, using the same tree structure, but here put some information related to a budgetary. You can create one for each segment if you wish. That means one structure or label related to a cost center or department segment, another created for your accounting segment and things like that. Okay. The step-by-step is the same. You can change the name here and the apply to correct accounting segment. I will show to you in the next step. First of all, create the parent account. Second one, create the label. Okay? All this information is registered into the activity guide. Next one. We need to create a hierarchy. And to create a hierarchy, I will show to you this one. Okay. So we have 3 steps to do that. First, put the information related to the name of your hierarchy, in this case, budgetary or budget account. And here, we need to use in the same accounting segment list of values, right? In this case, we are talking about the, let me close, take a look. We are talking about the account supreme power. This is the value set related to a natural account for this ledger. So using the same name here for this new hierarchy related to a budgetary, okay? Using here for the details values and parent values. The same value set here. I think we have a tricky or something like here, right? You cannot click on the next. You need to save it first. And after that, move on to the second step, right? And here, in the second step, you need to associate this new label Then we create, remember? Take a look. I'm already associated the budgetary level 1. And here we have the others, the parents, like I mentioned to you, the parents related to spreadsheet, right? Clarifications here. If you try using the same labels than you already have on your accounting versus your budgetary control, I believe 100% the application have the conflict about this information. And in the end, when you try using this information related to a control budget, the setup control budget, you cannot find this hierarchy or this structure because of this conflict. All right. So pay attention about that. If you do the setups and in the end you cannot find your hierarchy into the application in this setup, then I mentioned to you control budget, maybe you are using the same labor on the accounting. I think someone is asking something. Move on. Third step, just save, submit a save. And after that, we need to create a tree version. In this case, this is my tree version here. Let me open to you. We can define a name for your tree version. So someone can ask me what is the best practice. So in general, the person's using current in the end. In this case, accounting something current and accounting base, something like that. So 2 values. Put the information here, a short description if you wish. A starting date, and after that, working with your specific nodes. Someone is asking something? No. Remember the parent accounts, then I told to you, then we created budgetary control and budgetary no control. Then I showed to you some minutes ago. You can add this information here, right? Just click here. This one. You can add your parent account here. Select one parent account. I already have or already done this task. Because of that, I can check the budget no control, a budget control here. And after that, associate my accounts for which one. In this case, I'm not control this kind of accounting. I cannot control. And I will control the budgetary control. Will check in transactions related for these accounts here. Okay? Take a look. The label. This is very important. If you don't have the correct label here, you cannot move on to the control budget setup. And after that, we need to audit this value and publish this hierarchy. Audit here. This one. Audit, in this case, for example, set like complete and active, but here. Wait some minutes, checking if any errors show to me here. Sometimes you have the same accountant for the both parents. The system cannot complete your task if you have the same accounting related to two parents or more. You need to fix it. Okay. And after that, run a process called process hierarchy or something like that. I have it registered into the activity guide. Okay. Any doubts? Anu, what do you think? We can stop 10 minutes or can move on?
Yeah, as you wish, Mr. Daniel. Okay, we'll continue or we'll take break.
I think we can
We'll
take
take
a
a break.
break. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we can take
It's
a
too
break.
much. It's
Okay.
too much information.
Yeah,
We
okay, I'll
can
start
take-
timer.
Yeah. You can pause, I don't know, pause the record session, and after that, in a 10 minutes, are you sharing some a clock or something
Yeah, I'm
like
sharing.
that?
Okay, I started the
Okay.
clock.
Perfect. So in 10 minutes, we come back and move on to the next steps here. Okay.
Yep, okay.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I will stop share my screen if you share a clock or something like that. Can put the clock here also. I think it's done. I know. Can you see my regression clock here?
Yep, okay, we can.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We come back in 90 minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So let's go back here. So can you see my screen and hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on to the next topic here. So now we are starting the setup related to budgetary control. Okay, let's move on. The first step related to a budgetary control. These steps, the previous steps that I mentioned to you, is part of the concept, but the budgetary control is starting right now. After you enable this feature here, we have an option here related to budgetary control management or manage budgetary control. We starting using this option here. Let me go back here and share one additional information to you. Let me close it here. Okay. So tell me how many business units you can see right now. Let me open here. How many business units you can see? 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have in this environment, there are some business units that not belong to me because it's a Oracle environment. Okay. But we have 4 business units. When you start in the budgetary control setup, we have some blocks here. Is something like a header block here related to an enterprise option. And after that, the second block related to ledger and business unit option. How many business unit option you can see here? 3, right? That means it's missing 1, right? Why is missing this business unit? So I will show to you. I will go back here and explain step by step of this enterprise option, the ledger and business unit option. But before starting on that, I need to share to you why business unit is not show to me into this setup. Because it's missing a setup related to business unit. I will show to you which setup is missing. That means if you try and do your setup related to budgetary control and you cannot see your business unit over there, take a look, checking this task here related to assigning business unit and business function. I will open, select your business unit. In this case, take a look. It's missing the business unit number 4, okay? I will select the scope related for this business unit and enter on this task here. You need to create this information here. I'm already associate the primary ledger and legal entity here, but what is missing to show to me into the budgetary control setup is missing checking this option here. This one, and this one. You can select all this information here or this function related for your business purpose. If you're working on expenses, of course, you need to check this option here. If you're working on materials or inventory or things like that, you need to check this one. But to budgetary control perspective, I need to check almost or the minimum of these 3 information here. Okay. I will save this information here. Save and close. Cancel this option here and start again. Take a look. The business unit 4 is available to me right now. Okay, let's move on for this setup. This is a pre-requirement to starting and prepare the budgetary control. We have more than 4 blocks here. And this page, we have 2 blocks here related to enterprise options and the ledger and business unit options here. Let's talk about this first block here related to enterprise option. Some options here you can enable, maybe disable, but the third line here, you cannot do that. One time you enable, you cannot remove. Let's explain one by one, okay? First of all, if you would like working on budgetary control using the concept related to summary accounts and things like that, like I mentioned to you before the short break, using concept to summary accounts or summary, the hierarchy or things like that. If you would like working on this model, you need to enable this feature, okay? In this case, the line 1, 2, and 4, that means the budgetary summary, the synchronize, and the security control, you can enable and disable, okay? You can start in without this option, and after that, you can enable this one. First of all, the first line is if you're using the summary accountings to work on your budgetary control. I'm checking this information here. I will use and show to you how works this information here. The second one is talking about the synchronized hierarchy. Remember then we create a new hierarchy for accounting, right? Let me show to you. When you define a new hierarchy, doesn't matter if you're accounting, cost center, whatever. When you complete in publish the hierarchy, the system will create to us this dependency here. Take a look. Take a look. We have one line here related to key flex field, call it accounting flex field. Another line, call it budgetary flex field. Because we create the hierarchy, the label, the hierarchy, a new line, associated, publish, and because of that, the system associating add this information here to us. When you check this information here, every time then you change your hierarchy related to accounting, the system will replicate to budgetary control. In this case, attention point, because we are using different, maybe in this case is not replicate. The accounting will enable for the both, but you need adjustment the hierarchy because the hierarchy is not the same, right? Every time then you create a new accounting, okay, it's fine, but you need adjustment the accounting because in this case, in this example then I share to you, I created 2 parents, one no budgetary control and another or other related to a budgetary control. If you synchronize this one and using the same information, that means, remember then I shared to you, I don't want to create a new hierarchy. I will share the same calendar, then I will ask to us, and the same accounting segment or hierarchy. Okay, so this is work for you. One time you create this information, we'll replicate for your budgetary control, synchronize, every time then you create and publish. Okay. Third option here. Remember then we spoke about this example here. For example, I'm trying buy the lunch here to the red option here, and this guy call it something like a Joseph. Okay, the name of this guy is Joseph or Daniel. Daniel is better. Daniel is trying buy some information or buy some lunch, and the amount was refused. Okay, or I buy this time, and after that, no, please cancel my request here. I don't want. What I'm trying to say to you, this information here is related for this kind of scenario. Then we using the budgetary control, for example, to lunch expenses or lunch purpose, and after that I need cancel this transaction or something like that, and systems must be refound the same transaction or the same parent of this transaction. If this is not available, that means it's not checking here, you are saying you can return, doesn't matter, your budgetary control. In this case, an aircraft or rent a car or anything else. This additional budgetary liquidation validation means if you cancel the transaction, this total amount used must be returned to the same source. This is the purpose of this line here. Makes sense. If you are doing one expense related to travel and cancel your travel, the system must be refund this total amount and return this total amount to travel control. Okay, this is the purpose of this additional here. It makes sense if you tracking this kind of budgetary control by these groups or subgroups or this structure that I mentioned. Okay. One time you enable this option, you cannot disable this option. Take a look. The system don't give permission to us to do that. The last one related to enterprise option is security control budget definition. That means who can do the maintenance related for this budgetary control. If you're not checking this option, anyone can do that. If you check in this option, only the budgetary manager, remember the rule call it budget manager. The budgetary manager can do that, and the consultant, right? Another person on user cannot do that. Okay? So these 4 lines here related to enterprise option is applicable for any ledger, for any business unit. You cannot need to do this definition by ledger or business unit option. Is the same, is share the header for any ledger and business option. And you need to do one time.
When would
Okay,
you leave the third option as off, right? I mean, I see it is enabled here, but can you think of a business scenario where you would kind of, leave that option as off?
For which one? The third line?
Yes.
This additional?
Yes.
No. No, because this type of control that I mentioned to you, you can disable or start in disable and can enable, but you cannot reverse. So you can start in.
I understand that part, but I'm talking about a business scenario, right? I mean, when would you typically want to leave that? I mean, I would definitely have it enabled all the time, right? I mean, I don't see a reason why I would turn it off. So
have the option, but to me, no makes sense to return reimbursement or return the total amount to other business control. No makes sense to me, but there is this option. I never see this kind of scenario into the business. Okay. Let me try. Give him a minute. One minute, please. Let me check. Take a look. Can you see my screen? We are talking about one concept in a future. It's not right now, but just to explain this scenario then we mentioned right now. Suppose we have this concept, I don't know, the marketing department, the HR department, one department, have a total amount here related to this department have a fund to expand with your activities day by day into the company, right? That means, in this case, marketing, for example. Marketing is starting the requisition approval and expand 10 bucks, okay? In this case, the system will block this total because you already have the approval related to requisition, but this requisition is not realized. That means it's not transforming to a purchase order or an invoice receipt, okay? System block. You have a commitment related to this transaction. If you cancel this stage 2, the system must be cancel the commitment and return the total amount, and I will have the fund the same total amount. So in this scenario, then we're talking about the line 3. You can cancel, but you cannot return the total amount for your business scenario, for business purpose, in this case in marketing. To me, no makes sense. But we can have this scenario, I don't know where, but we can have it. But this is a little example. Then the flow, the happy line, and something you cancel is not happy, and you need to return the total amount and cancel the commitment to return the total amount here to fund available. Okay? To take a look into the entire picture related to this third line here. Okay, we can move on. So we have the header related to enterprise option, and now we need to enter the budgetary, the business unit setups and ledger here. So in this case, I'm using into this environment the business unit, call it US3 here. Take a look. Is enabled here. I will share to you step by step what's happening here. So when you define your business unit and complete your setup, you need to go here, click on Edges. And we have some options here. Now we are talking about the header related to a business unit and ledger. And after that, some additional information related to the same ledger and the same business unit. Okay? First block related to the left side. This one, enable budgetary control. If you are working on that, like we mentioned, we need to check in this information here, right? Second, for your right side, It's talking about the encumbrancy accounting. And we have, if you check the enabled information here, the system will provide to us a line related to a reserve encumbrancy account. What's happening here? Let me go back here. What is the difference between budgetary control and encumbrancy account? When you enable the budgetary control, the budgetary will do it's enabled to us to compare the transactions related to day by day versus the planning related to budgetary, right? In this case here, if you enable the budget control, in this case, I have a one total amount here. During a cycle or a month or a day, whatever, we have a lot of transactions happening into the ERP, right? Some transactions is consuming the budgetary control, and I have the first stage, then is uploading the information related to budgetary control. The second stage, consuming the budgetary control based on the requisition approval. After that, complete the requisition approval for purchase order. And after that, receiving the invoice related for this purchase order. Okay. What is the difference between this scenario to encumbrancy accounting? If you enable the encumbrancy account, you can check all these movements, all these informations related to create a transaction of 10 related to commitment. Encumbrancy account enable accounting transactions related to budget of this scenario. So every time then you using the budgetary control, then encumbrancy is enabled, the system will provide to us by the budget perspective, not in accounting or fiscal perspective, legal requirement perspective, I mean. The system will provide to us something like a tracking related to accounting of commitment, accounting to reverse the commitment and generate the obligation, accounting related to obligation until the payment of this expenditure. This is the difference. If you enable encumbrance, system will provide to us accounting track. If you're not enabled the encumbrance, you just compare the total amount related to budgetary versus the accounting information. That's it. Okay? Because of that, the system required to us provide one accounting here related to encumbrance. Something like a clearing account, right? Clearing account to do these steps between the commitment, obligation, and the expenditure type. Okay?
Daniel, if the organization using any project costing kind of one, how it will differ, any impact on this functionality, what you saw as a commitment obligation and the final expenditure part.
We have the same concept plus the project concepts additional. That means, take a look. First, we define the enable budgetary control and encumbrance account. After that, the system asks to us, what kind of budgetary filter or control you are using, you are planning using? Only to ledger purpose, only to project purpose, or both? Take a look. Ledger or project. If you are using the project, you need to enable this third option here related to ledger and project because, give me a minute again. Let's see. Let me check if it's this one. This one. Take a look. Because some activities related to project, take a look. We have the control related to budgetary here, then I mentioned to you, purchase, requisition, and things like that. But on the project extension, you have more details, like a task level or a resources level or things like that, right? And when you enable this, you would like, or this company would like to check and compare and use it, the budgetary feature into the project also. That means on these levels here, the task and resource or things like that. To do the both, we need enable this option here to generate this tracking for the both side. There is a plus information here on the project, but in the next setup, then we show in I think tomorrow.
Okay, so here, so the project budget will be take the highest level of hierarchy comparing to the requisition.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So we have the first block here related to budgetary control, the encumbrance, and if you're using only on ledger, project, or both sides. There is another, or the last option here related to header, rather related to business unit. Then the system is asking to us when is validation is fail, or what kind of options the system must be validate to us related in this case. Transaction budget fails outside of range of the control. That means, remember then Anu asking to us about the calendar, right? We have the option here. When you are created the control here, take a look. When you create the control here, the system asks to us which kind of calendar you would like to use. The same of GL. Okay. Which kind of period you are planning to do this control? So this is the question related here. Transaction budget that fails outside of this range. That means yes, because I will define a range of data or period to control my business unit. If it's out of this range, must be fail to me. In another option here, transactions without project attributes don't have a matching chart of account based on control. We need to check, like I mentioned right now, if you are using project or not, to check in or not this option here based on your business requirement. If you're using and you need to check in these attributes and you are tracking or filter or control this kind of option, you must be checking here. In this environment, because it's a test environment and I'm not able enable the project here, I'm not checking this option here to me. Okay? The last two informations here, or the two setups, this is very important to us to complete this scenario here. We have three options here related to this business unit and the behavior of this business unit versus the budgetary control. We have a mapping related to a chart of account and budget account. Here, the system is asking to us which segments related to a company, that means which company we are planning using to control your budgetary control. All segments or a specific segment. In general, because I have the same filter into my budget setup here, and we are talking about this tomorrow, because I have the same filter, and in more details about that, all the time I put always use the segment here and not using a specific value and not providing budget data. For example, I will give it to you one example. If I'm not, always use it from value. Use a specific value when not providing any budget data. Here I can select not a range, but one or other. Into other setup than I mentioned to you here, I can do a little different. I can select the range. So to me, it's better doing this kind of filter using this option here than this another one. This another one to me all the time will be always using the values here. And if I need to block some company, some cost center, line of business, I'm using this feature related for this task here, control budget. Okay. Cash control. I don't know if it makes sense to you about this option here. This option here is something like then we'll mention right here. Think about this option here. We have something like a red option here. We have a lunch, then cost 80 bucks, and you have $5, right? You cannot pay by your lunch, so you cannot buy this option here. It's the same concept then system is share with us related to cash control. What means? If you enable cash control here, take a look. If you enable the cash control, the budgetary control, the behavior of the budgetary control will be, if you have money into the bank account, I will move on to the transaction and complete the transaction. Otherwise, if you don't have money in your bank account, I'm not completing this transaction. This option is available. I'm never using this kind of this scenario situation. Maybe in a public sector makes sense, but talking about the general companies that not involved with a public sector, I never see this option available into the budgetary control. Okay. The last one. The last one is some journals, source and categories, then must be exception related to budgetary control, right? By default, we have this category here. You can add more if you wish, but this is enough to me. So what is the system is talking about to us? Transactions related to journal sourcing category, related to closing process, costing accounting, initial balance, the upload related to a balance amount, open balance, receipt accounting. This is by default. All these journal sources in your categories is not, this is a exception to control into your budgetary control. Is out of budgetary control. Okay. This is a suggestion by the system. To me, makes sense. You can add or remove other options also into this other section here. I will show to you inside of this option here. You can check business function, journal source, category. You can add or remove some sources or category here also. I prefer do this supplemental rule than this one. This is by default, and you have additional rules to put there, some additional journal or additional category or remove, my suggestion is try do into the supplemental rule. Okay. Last one. The last one is related to the business unit purpose. We have same scenarios here. So the system is asking to us if it's enable the budgetary control related to the business unit, enable encumbrance accounting related to business unit else, like I mentioned to you. The default date rule here. What is the behavior of the system related to the transactions associated to business control, to the budgetary control versus the date? Are you planning using all the time the system date? System date is the sys date, right? When happen today, the system will register here. Current transaction budget, that means if you generate the requisition and purchase requisition yesterday, the purchase order came or completed today, and invoices came tomorrow, we are using this transactions date for the budgetary control purpose. This is most common, talking about the budgetary scenarios into the companies. This is most common. And prior related transaction budgetary date, you can check the previous date when this requisition was created, and based on this creation, doing your tracking related to your budgetary control. It's not make sense if you are doing the monthly control, but the option is here available to your business. The most common is the second one, current transaction budget date, okay? This one. Everything is fine?
Daniel, so do we have an option that we can not to have the encumbrance accounting part? That option also available. So what will be the key differences when we have that option to not to have that encumbrance accounting enabled? Any pros and cons?
Without the encumbrance enable, you cannot track in by the journal level. That's it. You can compare the, remember this, let me show you. Do you know this accounting monitor? Okay. This option here. Let me show to you. We have here one concept called account monitor. Then accounting monitor we can create here. I'll take a look. Expense, let me check if I have some information here. It's loading. Let me try expense. In this case, without the encumbrance option, you can compare by reporting or using this feature here, call it accounting monitor, your budgetary amount, monthly, quarterly, or annual, versus your, take a look. You can compare your amounting relative for this example. For this accounting versus your budgetary control here, something like that, without tracking the movement, then I share to you. Without encumbrance, you cannot see, for example, the movement related to accounting, budget, for each one these lines here. That means the commitment process or the consuming process, the payment or expenditure type. So the difference is one generating accounting by the budgetary purpose, other no generating accounting. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Visual.
Thanks.
Yeah, visual, you can check this information, but if you track in something like that, you cannot do this tracking between the comment, obligation, and expenditure. If you
it's
would like
always,
to check. Yeah.
So it's always
Go ahead.
recommended to have that encumbrance accounting to be enabled. Is it right, Daniel?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think it's better to analyze. Some companies, like I mentioned to Anat, don't have this kind of mindset, and because of that, maybe you can start in without encumbrance, and after that, maybe in the next year, enable the encumbrance or things like that to track in and check what's happening here and generate reports and things like that, checking the accounting, budgetary accounting movements to your business. Okay. You can define also where the budgetary control will touch. In this example, okay, take a look. It's asking to us, if you enable the budgetary control related to a business unit, would you like check and enable for requisitions? I can decide yes or no. Take a look. If you enable this requisition option here, like I mentioned to you here, when you starting do the requisition and requisition was approved, the budgetary control will already starting the movement or they recognize the commitment about this transaction. And you define here what is the point, then commitment happening into the submission or after the approval, right? And if this enable or not the accounting encumbrance, like I mentioned to you. So for each line here, you can define if you have this budgetary enabler and when starting something like a trigger, right? When starting the trigger related to this control in approval, before approval, or procurement, for example, I cannot select the enable is already checked. I can select here the submission and approval, but we have the transactional type detail. Take a look. What kind of a transaction type detail the business would like to cover? All scenarios here, that means the purchase order to inventory, to purchase order, to back order, to standard order. These are questions then we need to confirm with the business to return here and doing the setup. The same here. What kind of requisition the business would like to cover? Non-project, project purchasing, requisition back-to-back, requisition of suppliers. So in general, I'm checking all like yes, but depends of your project. You can select the different options based on the business requirement. Okay. Any doubt? The expense is the same. Take a look. Expense is asking to us if yes. In this case, I have only one line related to expend. Receiving related to materials, right? What kind of transactions I will cover of this budgetary control. And the last one, not the least, payables invoice behavior also. So all these lines, you need to confirm with your business requirement. If it's okay, enable each one or not. You need to select some, not 100% of these lines here to cover this budgetary control.
Could you please show the requisition part one more time?
Which one? Receiving.
Requisition transaction type, requisition transaction type details.
This first one.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. It's similar to a kind of purchase order, right?
Yeah. That is the second one related to this one.
Thanks.
Someone asking to me about the project and the relation about this budgetary control. Take a look. We have here other option. In this case, belong to the business unit option, right? Enable budgetary control for all transactions, sources, and documents related to project accounting business function, right? We mentioned the header related to a project, and inside of the business unit, we already have additional information. Then you need to check if you're working on project into your project account, in this case, if you're working on your project. Okay.
I have a question here.
Go ahead.
So we also have a project budgets and projects module, and we have this GL budget. How is it interlinked, or how does it make difference when we configure both?
Could you say again? You have a project enabler and?
Yeah, we have even budgets and projects module. Right. So when we configure the projects module, what do you call this budget functionality in projects, and as well as this budget functionality in GL for projects, how does it make difference?
I think a project is using some informations related to budgetary control. I'm not expertise into the project. I think using some information here to cover, and you have more details and more controls, additional controls, I mean, on the project side using this feature. I'm not 100% sure about that. I know I worked on project last year, and the company have the projects enable for this option here, but the accounting asking to us to enable this feature to control some administrative expenses, then they don't need it using the project, for example. And we using the budgetary control, in this case, for the administrative information or HR or marketing or things like that, then not using project, and project cover plus the APM cover the other scope related to projects and manufacturing, things like that. Like I mentioned to you, for example, the tasks and researches. This is control inside of project. So one case is scope related to a financial models and procurement and supply chain. Other is a perspective related to a project and manufacturing or tasks and resources. Then project already responsible to do that. Right?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The last option then I have here is the exception related to a budgetary control here, the journal exception. I'm not using here, like I mentioned to you, all the time. I prefer using, let's go back here. This kind of details I prefer using inside of this control budget here, like I mentioned to you, into this supplemental rule here. You have the same option, and you can remove your journals or your information here. I prefer using this one than this one here. So all the time, the best practice to me into my project is keeping blank, and any exception working on supplemental rule. Okay.
Daniel, could you please re-say, or pardon me, could you please come again on this? Not able to understand.
Okay, so we could add here on the budgetary level some exception here. Let me show to you. I'm not control, for example. For this purpose, that means the budgetary control, the exception should be payrolls and the labor distribution, for example. You can define on this level here, on this task is budgetary control and encumbrance account, or you can go back here to the supplemental rule and define, for example, we are talking about this tomorrow. We can define which company is applied for this control, and plus, it's not open here, which journal source or journal category or natural account you can remove. You can work in like a exception to not consuming or control the budgetary control. Like I mentioned, you have some options here. In this case, 3 options here. Payroll, time and labor, and projects. You can define it as exception if it makes sense to the business requirement. Otherwise, I prefer using this kind of exception, working on that on the supplemental rule, sometimes by the filter here, sometimes in segments here, and sometimes in transaction here.
So what is the best practice here?
To me, it's more easy in the projects than I working on that here and supplemental, not touch this option here related to control journal exception.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anu, how much time then we have?
Yeah, still 50 minutes, 50 minutes, Mr. Daniel. 50 more minutes.
15 minutes?
Yep.
Perfect. Let's move on. One time then I completed this task here. So enable the budgetary control, create the hierarchy, enable the calendar or using the same calendar. Give me the roles to do that and complete the budgetary control and encumbrance. Now I can save and close the information here. Check. Okay. Save and close again. Important information here. Make sure after you save the information, the line then belongs to you. That means the business unit is checked like a yes to the budgetary control enable, and procurement account is encumbrance. Okay. make sure this information is completed correctly. One time save this information. Sure, I will. The supplemental rule we are talking about tomorrow. This is scope of tomorrow. I will introduce today, but we can cover tomorrow also. Okay, I will show to you right now. I'm already have this this detail here. I will create another one, not saving, just to demonstrate purpose. Okay. How works here? So all the scenario is completed. Now I can create my budgetary control. This information here, when you created this information, that means this setup, this name here will be used into your data access. Okay, so this information, when you complete this information, is available to the same information then you associate for your role into data access to starting your control budget. In this case, I put a name like budgetary 2026. Let me put something like that. Let's start it here. We starting this information today, and tomorrow we are return this information here. What's happening here? I have some blocks here. I have the header block here. I have the control budget here, and I have supplemental rules here. Starting on this control budget, what kind of information I must be provide to the system here? We need to provide the name of this budget. I will replicate the same name for the description. The calendar that I mentioned to you, I will use in the same accounting calendar. But like I mentioned to you, remember about that. If you have a business requirement, then the business would like to control monthly and quarterly and annual, you need to create a different calendar, right? Because the accounting calendar is monthly. So if you need an additional calendar, we are already talking about, you need to go to the task related to calendar, create a different calendar and different period, enable the option related to a budgetary, and after that, you can move on selecting the new one here, the new one here. In this case, it's the same. Monthly accounting, monthly budgetary. What kind of period we are control during this budget? You can define, right? And this example I am using, for example, 26 until December, but you can define, for example, this one or more, depends, okay? Source budget type. We have some definitions here, like someone told to us a little minutes ago. Depends if you have more applications into your environment. That means if you have APM, Hyperion, or project, or things like that, will be different your source here. In my case, into this environment, I don't have APM, Hyperion, or other control budget here. This is the something like a first one. Let me show to you. Remember then, I create a budgetary control, is already have it there. If I selected control budget here, take a look. It's showing to me one name, then the same name than I already created. What is the purpose of this control budget? Remember the calendar then we are talking about some minutes ago? In this case, you create the monthly calendar and associate to this budgetary control, that means the monthly, to your, I don't know, your quarterly, your annual. Of course, the transactions will respect the accounting period, then you define it into the calendar, in this case, quarterly or annual, but will be associated to your something like a primary budgetary control. In this case, I define the monthly, and after that, I can create quarterly, annual, or another dimension, but pointing to my primary definition. This is the purpose related to control budget. Otherwise, if you're using the EPM or things like that, you must be selected EPM. Or in my case, I don't have this setup enabled here on this environment. So I have, in my case, I have two options here. Control budget to reflecting a different period or vision, right? Or other. Because I've selected here, cannot change this one. Let me try again. No. Sometimes happening. Let me try again. So we are talking about this one. January, December, order, and we will repeat the same name then you have here, okay? This is the first column, then you define related to your control budget. Talking about the header, what kind of currency do you would like to control into your budgetary control? You need to define the currency then you have using into your business, right? Maybe US or another kind of currency here. What type of conversion? In general, corporate. Remember the control level then we talking about a few minutes ago? Let me show to you a little difference here. Take a look. This is I know this is a spoiler related to tomorrow. So take a look. This is a kind of control then we have available, talking about this option here, control level. The control level, we have two places to put this information. Here on the header, and when you define a supplemental rule, we have, take a look, the same option here, talking about, in this case, a business unit level. What is the purpose related to control level? Take a look here. I think it's more easy to understand. We have 4 options here related to a control level. Most restrictive and most permissive. First one, absolutely, like I mentioned to Anna, what is the best practice? I will explain right now. What is the best practice related for this one? Depends of the mindset the new customer have. I will explain one by one. Absolutely. If you have money to do that, the system give it to you permission. Otherwise, no. Remember then I shared to you this example here? Absolutely. If you have money to buy the lunch, the system move forward to the next transaction. If you don't have money to do that, is cancel. You cannot move on. Okay? So this is absolute option. That means if you have a requisition to do that, but you don't have money to cover this requisition, the system will block the transactions. This is the mention that I share with Anna. When he asked me about what's happening into the company. Think about that. The company starting implementation the first time in ERP. Selecting the absolute option here, the control level absolute. If the company does not have the mindset related for how works this tracking here, that means you need uploading the budgetary amount. You need to check in how much then you have to starting doing the requisition or things like that. If the company don't have this kind of mindset, starting could be generate a requisition with a total amount major than funds available and already stop the transaction, block the transaction. So first option here, absolutely. If you have money, move on. You don't have, stop the transaction. Second option here, advisory. If you have, in this case here, let's share the option here. If you have $5 to buy the lunch and the lunch expand or the cost of the lunch is 8, the system will just warning you, hey, take a look. You are doing a requisition major than you have registered in your funds. I will give permission to you move on, but pay attention about that. It's just an advisor. Okay, you can move on. The system is not blocking the transactions, the requisition, the purchase order, the system is not blocking anything. But if register, you are expend more than you have. Okay. Track. Just track. Just register your transactions here to internal purpose. Take a look. Just take a note about this, and after you can compare your accounting information, accounting balance amount, monthly amount versus your budgetary amount, monthly also, and compare what's happening. So tracking is just register without permission or not permission, or advisor is just tracking the information. And the last one is none. That means doesn't matter when you generate related to transaction of budgetary control, the system is not reserve or tracking anything here related to budgetary control level. Okay, none, nothing happened by the budgetary perspective. Manish, it's clear to you the concepts here? You asking about the absolutely and other things?
Yes, Daniel. Yeah. So if
Okay.
they're choosing none, why we want that budgetary control module?
Could you say again?
Yeah, if they're using none, is the customer really needs the budgetary control module?
In general, we use an advisor, the second one.
Okay, okay.
But there is a little tricky here. I will explain in a few minutes. Remember then I mentioned to you, we have two places to put this information. We have on header information, and we have a supplemental rule information. So there is a tricky here. What is the trick? Who is recognized by the application? The supplemental rule or the control level rule? Take a look. The conflict here. So imagine then you have here the definition related to header. Then you mention right now. You have the track on the header. So let me show to you. You have track on the header. is suppose you have here on the supplemental rule advisory on this column here. What is the interpretation on the system about this rule? Take a look. If you have a track on the header and on the supplementary level, you have advisory, the winner will be advisory. So the minor level or the supplemental level depend of your level then you define is the winner. Take a look at another example here. We have it absolutely on the header level and we have none on the supplemental level. The winner in this case is absolutely. That means the header. Okay? So this is the conflict here. If you have the control level more restrictive on the supplemental level, the chances of this win, this combo is major. More restrictive is the winner level related to this behavior between header and supplemental control level. It's clear? We will talk about this tomorrow again to complete the setup. So after that, we need to associate the ledger. If you, the system asking to us if you have the project to associate or not, any project on this transaction or no project. Someone asked me about this project here. If you have projects enabled and you would like to control the budgetary control plus the budgetary here and this level using the project plus information. When you generate, for example, the requisition or purchase order, there is a field over there. Then you need to inform complete with your project information. In this case, project task and other things, right? If you do this kind of scenario, of course, you need to enable this project. In this environment, I'm not touching on the project side. In this case, I'm using no project. I'm not set up the project. I'm not the guy related to project. I know they exist, but there's too much to do into this environment. Okay. Remember that I mentioned to you about the role called budget manager. It's something like responsible. I will select it. Chris, for example. This guy will be responsible to control and management this budgetary control. We need to associate, take a look. This is a required field to us to associate a budget manager. One guy responsible to cover this item. Plus information. You can use in this information also about this override. Take a look. If you enable this option here, the system provides to us additional information here, talking to us how much additional funds we can cover for your control budget. You need to check with your business requirement first, if it's possible, enable additional funds and how much should be this additional fund. After that, for example, I can add this option here and take a look. Additional, just to clarify, remember this option here? The last option. I will buy a lunch. I don't have money to cover this one. I ask it to my colleague or to my parents and say, hey, could you give me $10 today and I will return to you tomorrow. I need to pay a lunch or something like that. So this is a override. Then someone add more funds to you because a business requirement in this case, and you need to justify this option over there. The system registered this requesting about this override, the approval about this override, and you can define how much, and here you can define also the name of this override, the type, if he is a this insufficient fund, the amount, and what kind of transaction type could be applied or using this kind of override funds. For example, acquisition, purchase, invoice, this one, all, and who will be the responsible to cover these options here. Someone into the business requirement asked it to me, we could segregate the responsible about this this override. We can do that not by the accounting or company. We can segregate, for example, by amount and maybe by transaction type. One person responsible to procurement purpose. One person responsible to financial purpose. One person responsible to, we can do this kind of segregation, okay? Not the accounting segregation. Okay? We have additional information here. If you have allowing to increase or decrease this budget, let me a name for this override here. Let me put here. Just to complete this transaction here. Okay. The problem is here. It's not cover. Let me try. The number of control budget must be 1 to 30. There is, sorry about that. Okay. The system is asking to us to associate what kind of accounting segment will be, I don't know, will be using. Let me open another one just to share to you what's happening here. Take a look. We need to complete this information, and the system asking to us just to complete the day of today. What kind of segments do you would like to control into your budgetary control? We not replicate the same accounting structure. That means we have 6 segments related to accounting structure here, but by the budget control perspective, I can select a few, not 100%. In this case, for example, I would like to select company segment, a line of business, account, and cost center. So in this case, the budgetary control will checking our movements related for these 4 segments, and I will do the data load or FBI loader, right? FBI loader related for this total amount here based on these 4 segments. And remember, then we talking about the hierarchy. Take a look. Here we create a hierarchy, and I talk to you and starting this session, I explained to you about the new hierarchy related to accounting. We put here the name of this hierarchy. define here the period of this hierarchy and the level of this hierarchy. That means I will control the budgetary control for these segments using a separate structure of the tree accounting, call it budget account. And after that, the parent and the values I will associate here and supplemental rule based on this parent. Remember, this parent is something like an umbrella and have a lot of accounting associated for this line here. We are talking about this tomorrow with details, doing these scenarios here, planning to do tomorrow step by step. Okay? Doubts, question and answers, please.
Daniel, like here as like a super user, the budgetary manager will have the highest authority, right?
Yeah. We have a tree, right? But the budgetary manager is the
highest level.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks.
Because this guy is responsible to do the not the maintenance, but to do the control of this budgetary. This guy is responsible to do that. Of course, the manager or director is not loading information here, but all the time will be receiving notifications and approval by the system when happen control budget transactions related for him or for her.
Okay.
Any other questions? The most extensive or complicated part is this first setup. After that,
Mr.
it's more
Daniel,
easy. Go ahead, Anu.
yeah, budget period doesn't match the budget control budget requirement. Then what is the
Budget period is
budget
not
period
matched.
doesn't match the control budget requirement? There is a setup is there here.
Budget period is monthly. The calendar
Yeah.
is monthly.
Okay, doesn't match to the requirement, budget control requirement.
What is the control? Anu,
For example, my calendar has like April 20, whatever you selected, that Jan 26th to March, that December 26th.
this is a reflect. Okay, let me go back here. If you starting, for example, April or another month, of course, this information will be reflecting into your calendar.
Yep.
And in this case here, this one. In this case, take a look. The period is starting on January. But if your period, for example, bank is starting in June, right? Or some companies is starting in June. June for a period to July for another period. If you have a different information related to your calendar, you need to define the same information that you have here in your calendar here. In this case,
Yes.
because it's January to December, I selected the same. But in the new one, if you select the April or June, is the first period on your calendar. When you create a new one here, you need to put here, here. You need to put the same data or information that you have here on your calendar. For example, starting on June. So you need to put here June. right? You
Yep.
need to pay attention related for your type of periods here in
Okay.
your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So the monthly, quarter, and annual.
So before loading budget, we have to validate calendar or what? We have to.
No, you don't need it. We need to
Okay.
open the calendar because budgetary control have a segregated period to control. You need to open the period into the budgetary control, upload the
Okay.
information over there, and after that, start in use.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, then I got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So this is a spoiler information. Let me show to you. Take a look. We have a task called budgetary period status here. So take a look.
Mm.
Using the control here, and here we can define your period and if it's available or open to your management, your transactions and budgetary control actions. Okay.
Okay.
Any doubts?
In this case, only if you select the wrong currency because a client, okay, you selected USA currency, but in case a client requirement, he needs to change that client change the currency USA to INR or any other currency. Then what will be the?
When you put the currency here,
Yep.
you need something like a primary currency, but if you transaction some purchase order or requisition into euro, for example, euro versus rupia, for example,
Oh.
the base of this transaction should be in exchange currency, but the base of the accounting using the US or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that means, let me go back here. I put a currency here, but any relation related to the primary currency and the conversion currency could be covered into this item here. Let me open here. We define a currency here, a setup, but we define a ledger here.
Yep.
Right? So the base of your budgetary control in general will be the same base on your ledger currency. But you can transact into another currency into the application, like a requisition, purchase order, or expensive report using a different currency. The system will convert it to a primary currency and affect the budgetary control.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dana.
Any other question?
Our doubt here, sir. Let's say we have a parent company in USA and the subsidiary company, child company is in INR. Can we load the funds to the subsidiary company?
What kind of level you will set up your budgetary control? If your subsidiary or your branch company, then you mentioned, is a business unit, we already covered, right?
Yeah.
So if you have the Tata have a lot of business around the world, right?
Okay.
So different currencies. If you define here the budgetary control for a Tata that not
In
belong
general,
to
can we-
India, yeah. So you're using a different currency for this purpose. Because we are not talking about the ledger and legal reporting unit. We are talking about the ledger and business unit, the setup here. To
Okay.
consolidate is a little different, right?
Not about consolidation. We're loading the funds to the budgetary control.
Yeah, like I tried to say to you, is the setup is by the minor level. That means the business unit. Business
Okay,
unit
got it.
plus the ledger, right?
Yes, got it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Any other point? We will return about this task here because we need to complete and do some exercises about that. So tomorrow we recap the day one plus this activity here with more details and supplemental rule, of course. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Anu, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Daniel, for today's. Yeah.
Tomorrow on the same time, right?
Yeah, same time.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for all for this to join to this session. We can return tomorrow on the same time. Kiran, have a question? Go ahead, Kiran.
Oh, sorry, Daniel. I was taking. Yeah, thanks, team.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Daniel. Very great session, and we learned
Thank you.
different things other
Oh,
than
yeah.
fusion financials. Okay, budgetary control. We learned different things from you. This is very
Mhm.
great opportunity for us, whoever they participated. Okay,
Perfect.
we are
Okay,
so
thank
fortunate
you.
about this boot camp.
Yes,
Thank you.
wonderful foundation session, Daniel. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you all.
We see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.